In scuba diving and in life, there's always more to the story than what lies at the surface. And the history of the SS President Coolidge is no exception. We had spent the last month sailing south to north through many of the 83 islands that make up the nation that is now known as Vanuatu. It's difficult to imagine it in any other way than what we saw with our own eyes. Utopian bays and underwater dream worlds, dotted with villages that time seemed to have left behind. But even the most beautiful of destinations can serve as a backdrop to war and tragedy. This is the story of a sailboat named Sylvia and the ragtag crew that call her home. Join us each week as we explore our planet both above and below the surface and find out what it's really like to live a life at sea. This is Expedition Drenched.
What are we doing today, Peanut? We're doing something big, huh? We're doing something very big.
Big was an understatement. We were preparing to dive one of the largest shipwrecks in the entire world.
We are here in Luganville, Vanuatu. And what we brought you here today is we are at the site of the Coolidge wreck dive, a World War II wreck that is rated one of the best wrecks of the world time and time and time again. This is definitely the dive I was looking forward to the most this season from the start. So I cannot wait to get down there and check it all out. This thing's massive, absolutely just massive.
Built in the midst of the Depression and Prohibition, on February 21st, 1931, when the SS President Coolidge was launched, she couldn't be christened by traditional means of smashing a champagne bottle. But instead, she was launched into the world by the breaking of a bottle of spring water collected from the Coolidge family farm in Vermont. The Coolidge wasn't built for war. Her first lot in life was serving as a luxury passenger ship, running routes from San Francisco and Manila via Kobe and Shanghai. With accommodations for over 1,200 passengers, she was big, clocking in at 615 feet in length, 81 feet wide, and 52 feet deep. And she was fast, breaking speed records on her crossings from San Francisco to Japan, and she did it all in style. But as World War II began to escalate, the Coolidge was purchased by the U.S. Navy to transfer troops and military supplies into Pacific battle zones. She was stripped of almost everything on board. Her labyrinth of staterooms were gutted out into massive cargo holds. Her decadent art was replaced by a coat of gunmetal gray over the entire ship, and the SS Coolidge officially joined the war effort. She sailed across the Pacific to a major Allied base here on the island of Espiritu Santo after making a short stop in New Caledonia. As she approached the channel to enter into the harbor, her sailing orders failed to warn her to take the back entrance into the harbor, as the main channel was littered with underwater minefields that had been laid as protection against Japanese submarines. As they continued through, suddenly her ensign yells, "Stop! Stop!" Someone in the harbor saw her approaching and tried to send a message. "Stop! Wrong way! You are standing into mines." Between the words stop and wrong, the engine room of the Coolidge was ripped open by an exploding mine. Moments later, she hit a second mine, and the captain knew they were going down. They charged full steam ahead to the nearest land, hoping to beach her, but instead she hit a reef and listed onto her side. Orders were given to abandon ship. Amazingly, 5,340 men made it safely to shore, but 2 men lost their lives that day. The first was fireman Robert Reed, who was killed by the explosion in the engine room. The second was Elwood Joseph Ewart, who lost his life helping the final troops safely escape from the infirmary just in time before he himself became trapped as the Coolidge sank stern first, about 90 minutes after beaching, and slid down the sloping ledge of the reef into her final watery resting place, which we were about to witness firsthand for ourselves. We descended onto the shallowest part of the ship that lays only about 60 feet below the surface. Thanks to the massive size of the Coolidge, it was easy to confuse the hull of the ship for the seafloor of a lively reef covered in patches of hard and soft coral and a more than healthy population of marine life. Because the Coolidge lays on her side, we had to descend deeper to reach the top deck, where we found some of our first artifacts of the war. As we descended down perpendicular to the main deck, we found a collection of some of the most impressive and intact artifacts we had ever seen on a shipwreck. Within the first few moments of the dive, we knew we were in for something really special. As we entered into the cargo holds, we found ourselves swimming through these massive corridors with beams of light dancing all around us. And the sheer size and scale of everything, it was almost difficult to wrap your mind around it. One of my favorite things about wreck diving is the ability to move in a three-dimensional space through a setting that you could experience in normal life, like walking through a ship, for example. But underwater, you're turning everything you know about reality and the laws of physics completely upside down, and having this sort of out-of-earth experience that you really can't have in any other way. It's an entirely different way of moving through and perceiving the world around you. We came across a pile of artifacts that, unlike all the ammunition and vehicles and war supplies that you can find throughout the wreck, was some of the few remnants of the actual human beings that crossed the Pacific Ocean on the Coolidge. We saw bottles and cafeteria trays, and it's a reminder that all the tragedies and triumphs of war, they were happening to normal people that eat and drink just like us. The cargo holds were these huge, wide open spaces, but we wanted to explore a little deeper into the wreck to try and uncover some of her better kept secrets. There are so many hidden gems in the Coolidge, and without a guide, it's really easy to miss them. We were lucky enough to pop our heads over what seemed like an unassuming ledge, and we found one of our favorite parts of the wreck. Drop tanks became popular in the 1930s as a means for pilots to carry more fuel for longer escorts or patrol missions, but they could be dropped if the pilot needed to lose weight to engage in a dogfight or something like that. But during World War II, the Americans started getting a little creative with them, and some of the most skilled pilots would actually release the tanks, swoop back around, line up with their target, and if they aimed well enough, they could use a blast from their cannons to actually ignite the fuel that was left in the tanks, basically turning them into a falling firebomb from the sky. And here in the Coolidge, we found stacks of them. One of the most iconic artifacts of diving the Coolidge is a statue that is known as the Lady. When the Coolidge joined the war effort, she was stripped down of all of her decorations and art and furniture and things like this, which were actually stored away for the day that she could ever return to service as a luxury liner. But the Lady, which is a statue of a woman riding a unicorn, was actually built into the walls of the first-class smoking room and was boarded over instead of being removed like everything else. This was the deepest that we went into the wreck, and we didn't really know if we would be able to find her or not.
We found it, brother!
There are only a handful of places on Earth where you can find relics of World War II like this. On land, the battlefields have all been cleared. But here in the underwater world, we can explore a major event in history that has been waiting here for us below the surface for over 50 years. Ahoy everybody! Thank you very much for tuning in to our latest episode. If you love taking a trip under the sea with us each week, and you want to help keep the episodes coming, then subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free, and make sure to click the bell icon so that you get a notification each time we put out a new video, so you'll never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous today, then go ahead and give this video a like. It actually really helps us out quite a bit. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I put lots and lots of extra love into it, and we will see you again next week as an impending cyclone catches us off guard, and we have to hightail it out of Vanuatu towards one of the most amazing destinations that we've ever been to, the Solomon Islands.
My God, I'm so glad I finally found the pig that makes me wanna say, oh, 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 my God, oh, 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 yeah, yeah.